Hello, I'm Carmen Falcon, an AARP New Jersey volunteer, and I want to welcome you to this month's AARP New Jersey Fraud Friday Facebook Live. We are continuing to have important discussions on fraud and scams happening right here in our state. Many of us are getting accustomed to this ongoing remote world with virtual events, virtual meetings, virtual activities. When we can't be face to face, it makes it a rich target for adept scammers. Today, we're going to be talking about one scam that has been on the rise since the pandemic began. They are called Do Me a Favor scams. Now, I'd like to introduce our guest today, Seth Boffeli. Seth is an advisor with ARP Fraud Watch Network team. Seth works with all our 50 states on spotting fraud and scams. We want this to be an interactive discussion today, so if you have a question about a Do Me a Favor scam for our guests, please type it in the comments section and we will do our best to get to it live. We're looking forward to a great conversation. Seth, welcome. We're hearing that more and more about these Do Me a Favor scams, where scammers pose as pastors, preachers, priests, and rabbis. That is scary. Can you describe how this scam works?
Yeah, thanks for having me, Carmen, and thanks for bringing this important topic up because it's something that we have seen a lot of lately. The way that this scam works, it's what we call an imposter scam, and the way that it works is that you get an email or a phone call or a text from your pastor, or your rabbi. Sometimes it's just somebody who works at the church or the synagogue, and it says basically this: um, "I'm I'm at the hospital. We have several members of our community who are here and who are dying of cancer. We really would like to do something nice for them, but I can't get away. Could you go to the store and get me $1,000 for each of them in gift cards and send me the numbers? And don't worry, you'll be reimbursed from the church funds." And so it really plays on a lot of things: our sense of community, our connection to our religious organization, and our desire, especially during the time of COVID, to be there to help each other, our neighbors out. And so, unfortunately, what happens for a lot of folks is, they think they're helping out, and they get this information or buy these cards, and then normally, I don't know, in my church, if there's a food drive, sometimes they'll say, bring some food by, or pick up a gift card and drop that off. And But the difference in this scam is they don't want the physical gift card. They want you to buy it and then take a picture of the back or scratch off the code and give it to them over the phone. So that's one red flag to look out for. And I think the other part of this scam that's another sign to look out for is there's always some sort of fantastical reason why they can't do it themselves, or why they can't call you. There's always some reason why this person is out of commission, and they need you to take in. And I'll give you an example. This We were just on a call, and somebody called in, and they had just gotten one of these scams the day before, and
Mhm.
when they said, "Hey, can you give me a call and talk about this?" The person who was supposed to be from their church said, "I'd love to, but I fell in a manhole yesterday and broke my phone." Which is like, then how are you texting me? But
Exactly.
so, but sometimes we get kind of so caught up in the story, or so excited to help someone out, or so worried about our neighbor, that we don't really connect. We don't see those red flags when they happen.
Oh, it's crazy what's happening actually with these gift cards. So, Seth, thanks about that. Thank you for that. Now, we've noticed here at AARP's Fraud Watch Network helpline, there's been an uptick in the number of do me a favor scams during this pandemic. So, why do you think we have this uptick in this type of scams? What's caused it to be an uptick?
Yeah, I we where I sit, I'm based in in Minnesota, but I work with all 50 states, and so I kind of see it's an interesting perch in this world because I see these scams pop up in one corner of the country, but they slowly but surely make their way across. A lot of times, scammers they set up a scam in one state and they do it until it stops working or people catch on, and then they just pick up shop and move it somewhere else. And this is certainly one of those ones where we kind of heard about before, but not as prevalent. And I really think it does have a
Mhm.
lot to do with the pandemic, and that people are feeling more charitable. They're also feeling a little bit more isolated, and so when we feel isolated, we want to reconnect with those community functions that we might be missing, and churches are one of them. And I think
Yeah.
the other thing too is that when you think about it, your church, your synagogue, they're in the business of being reachable. They want you to find them. So when you go
Absolutely.
online, you can find the email, the phone number, pretty much from everybody from the head priest all the way down to the janitor. And so for a scammer, that's great information that's readily available. They can use that and they could spoof that phone number, or they could even set up a fake email account that looks like it's coming from that email that you know and trust.
Wow. What they're up to. Thanks, Seth, about that, for providing that information. Now, I want to remind our viewers that if you have a question on clergy scams or do me a favor scam for our guest today, please type it in the comment section and we'll do our best to get to it live. Now, Seth, can you share any examples of do me a favor scams from across the country as you cover a lot of 50 states and people are reaching out to you, informing you about these possible scams or anything that's actually happening here in our New Jersey state?
Yeah, so there's a number of them. We saw. I know I saw a story from Florida of an 80-year-old woman who actually ended up buying, I think, about $10,000 or more than $10,000 in
Oh,
gift cards and sending them to somebody that she thought was her pastor. Same story in Wisconsin, with a man in his 70s or 80s. And I think this is important to understand for your viewers is that since 2018, gift cards have been one of the most frequently requested form of payment by scammers. So
okay.
anytime anybody tells you you have an obligation and the best way to pay it is to go to the store and buy hundreds or thousands of dollars in gift cards, it's a scam. End of story. Hang up the phone, walk away. But one of the reasons that we see these a lot, especially targeting older members of the community, is that you know I understand what a Home Depot card is. You buy it at Home Depot and
Mhm.
you use it at Home Depot. But I don't really get what a Google Play card is or an iTunes card is. So a lot of times the scammers will be directing their targets, especially their older targets, to buy these more kind of obscure cards. And they don't call them gift cards; they call them government bonds or back securities. So they try to create, because they know if you say like, go buy me $5,000 in Amazon gift cards, I might say that doesn't make any sense. But if they say, okay, there's a government bond that you can buy at the store in $500 increments, it's called a Google Play card. I might, if I'm not familiar with that, I might be more likely to think it's legitimate. And so that's one of the things they do. Another thing too, just
Wow.
to remind people, is the latest iteration of this do me a favor scam is around religious communities. But prior to this, where we saw it more often was businesses. And so the person reaching out for that favor was the boss or the CEO. And sometimes it was targeting like a lower level employee or an intern who you're like, oh, holy cow, the CEO reached out to me. They need my help. This is my chance to shine.
Yeah.
And again, there's really no risk because I'm going to be reimbursed. And kind of the most famous we've seen example of this is, I don't know if you watch Shark Tank. That show is Shark Tank.
Yes.
But Barbara Corcoran, one of the hosts, someone
Mhm.
who worked for her, I think, real estate company, got one of these business imposter scams, they call it, and went out and bought, I think, like $400,000 in I don't know if it was gift cards or wire transfers, but essentially thought that she was, I think it was a bill. They sent a fake bill that was past due, and it came from an account that looked like it was the boss's account. And so it's a good reminder that literally anybody can be targeted. Literally anybody can fall victim to these type of imposter scams.
And the thing is, everywhere you go, you actually see these gift cards being sold at pharmacies, at supermarkets, so they're accessible. And
Absolutely, absolutely.
they'll go shopping and they'll see it. Oh, I got to get a card because I was just called to say I need to do something to address whatever it is the case may be. It's quite scary.
You know, another
Um,
thing, Carmen, is when we think of, in the past, if a scammer wanted to get your money, they had to get you to go to Western Union or someplace to wire money. You've never done it before, or you would have to go to the bank and withdraw, like
mhm,
$15,000 in cash. And bank tellers are trained to spot that and ask questions. But with gift cards, they're like you said, they're everywhere. They're literally blocks away from every home in America. So it's instant access. And again, as soon as you read that card off, that number off to the scammer, they can download those
gone.
funds instantly. They can turn it into Bitcoin. They can turn it into cash, and it's almost impossible to get it back.
Yes, there's got to be some advertising about the gift cards and the danger of misusing them. I mean,
Yeah.
it has to be targeted messaging in terms of what's the real purpose of gift cards.
And there are some retailers, I know I've seen in Walgreens, some Walgreens have signage. The Federal Trade Commission has a line. They always say gift cards are for gifts, not for payment.
Okay,
And we at AARP, we're actually reaching out to retailers to try to get more engaged in that conversation. Maybe it's something that if someone tries to put more than, say, $300 on a gift card, a manager has to approve that transaction, and then that manager is trained to ask questions. Because if you think about all of the retailer organizations across the country that sell these, and then all of the people working at the cash register, there's just really no way to train every single person to spot the scam. But if there's a trigger, we can maybe get to the managers and have the managers be those interveners, because that could be, we hear it so many times, like these scammers had my mind. I went to the bank and I tried to get $10,000 in cash, and I was going to put it in a FedEx envelope and drop it in the mail. But the bank employee like stopped and had a conversation with me, and the fog sort of lifted. And so these interveners are really important.
absolutely. I mean, we have to start somewhere. So, wow, that's great information for our viewers. And you mentioned the Federal Trade Commission. Yeah, the Federal Trade Commission, or the FTC, puts clergy scams in the larger category of imposter scams, which triggered nearly $1.2 billion in losses in 2020. It's crazy. So, Seth, what exactly is an imposter scam? We hear about this as well.
Yeah. So, and I know I mentioned a lot. I think the thing to understand is that um, a scammer's job is to kind of get you, we call it in the ether. So they want to get you in a place, a mind space where
Mm,
you're not really thinking things through the way you normally would. And the easiest way to do that is if they can impersonate either someone you trust or an authority figure. And so
mhm.
we see this a lot in government imposter scams. We have an AARP helpline, a victim support helpline. You can call it if you've been victimized. You can call it if you just want to know if something's legitimate or not. Last year, we took over 100,000 calls, and 70% of them had to do with Social Security imposter scams. So Social Security is the number one year in, year out scam out there. Fraudsters call seniors claiming to be with the Social Security Administration, and there's a number of scams, that storylines that kind of come off of there. But the number one thing is they're trying to get their targets to believe I'm from Social Security because Social Security is trusted. Same with the IRS. And then the flip side of it that we really see in these do me a favor scams, and also in a lot of social media scams, is that they're trying to impersonate your friends and family. Because again,
Mm-hmm.
people you trust. Whenever anybody gets hacked on Facebook, the very first thing the scammers do is send out a message to everyone in their Facebook contact list, because they know that you already have a relationship with that person. If you get a message from them, you're much more likely to trust it, much less likely to think it's a scam because you already know who they are.
Oh boy. Now that's great information. So thanks again, Seth. So kind of related again to the do me a favor scams. So what can congregants do to protect themselves from clergy scams? How can someone know if it's their religious leader or not? This is the scary part. So what can pastors, preachers, priests, rabbis, etc., do to protect themselves and their congregants at their place of worship from these scammers?
Well, I think first of all is talking about it. We always say education is the best tool we have. There's been studies done that show that if you know about a scam ahead of time, you're 80% less likely to even engage in
Mm-hmm.
it, to take the call or respond to the text. And even if you do engage in it, you're 40% less likely to fall victim. So the more that we can talk about this, and that's why I love that we had a chance to talk about gift cards, because gift cards are used as a common form of payment in six
Mm-hmm.
of the top 10 scams we saw last year. So if all you know to do is hang up the phone if somebody asks for a gift card, you're protected from some of the most notorious scams that are out there right now. So having a conversation in your community and in your workplace too, because this happens in workplace too. This is a type of scam. It impersonates someone. That way, when somebody in the community gets that text, they say, I'm going to back this up with a phone call or a visit. And so then they ask for the phone call. And then when they get the message back that says, sorry, I fell in a manhole and my phone's broken, then they know, okay, I'm hanging up. This isn't
Right. Exactly. You have to be creative as well on your end. Okay, so where should consumers go to report a clergy or do me a favor scam, which is very important?
Yeah, so I mentioned this before. The AARP Fraud Watch helpline is a great one. The number is 877 and I think we'll have this in the chat too on the
Okay.
Facebook video. So it's a great resource that really only AARP provides. There's not really anything else out there like it. It's staffed Monday through Friday with volunteers from across the country, and they can do a number of things. If you need to get in contact with someone in your state, they can get you plugged in. If you've lost money and need to know what happened or who to report it to,
Right.
they can help you. If you are, if you're, we get a lot of calls from people who say, oh my God, I just gave my social security number to somebody on the phone, what do I do next? They can walk you through things like setting up a credit alert, doing a credit freeze. So it's just a great resource. Even if you just want to say, hey, most of the calls, Carmen, I get week in and week out are, is this a scam or isn't it? And so they can help with that too.
Okay, very good. Thanks, Seth. This has been great. Now, do you have any last thoughts? You've given us a lot of information and takeaways from this discussion, but do you have any last thoughts you like to share with our viewers today?
Yeah, my favorite parting words of wisdom are sort of three steps. Stop, think, verify. So anytime you get any sort of offer, you know, there's gonna be pressure to take advantage, act right now. So when you
Mm-hmm.
feel that pressure, stop. And then think about what you're seeing, what you're being confronted with. Think about those red flags. Do you see those red flags? If it's an email, I just got one that said I needed to do something with my Microsoft, or my all my files were going to be deleted. And I stopped and I looked a little bit closer, and the email address wasn't from Microsoft, it was from Macrosoft.
Mm-hmm.
But when you look at it first, it looks like legitimate. So, like that, stop, think. And then if you do, we get a lot of, Amazon packages come to everybody's house almost every
Mm-hmm.
day. you get this message saying like, there's a problem with your Amazon shipment, click this link.
Right.
Don't click that link. But if you think there really is a problem with your shipment or you've been charged, go online, log into your account, look it up that way. Same thing with your bank. If you get a text message saying there's a fraudulent charge, call this number. Don't call that number. Take out your wallet, pull out your bank card, flip it over, and call that number. Call the verified points of contact. Talk to the real people. And if there is a problem, they'll help you get it taken care of.
Yeah, you just have to discipline yourself as well. Now you have to get a little more like prepare yourself. It's like a thought process.
Yep.
Because you're overwhelmed. You get a lot of emails and you're like clicking away. And you have to be
But I
more.
always tell people, if it's money, if it's personal information, be a detective and do the legwork before you send that information away.
Great. Seth, thank you so much. This has been such an informative discussion, and I am grateful to you, and I'm sure our viewers as well. We're thrilled that you can join us to share these tips, best practices, and resources so we can protect ourselves and our loved ones from fraud and scams. For our viewers, if you're concerned that you have been scammed, you can reach a trained volunteer at our AARP Fraud Watch Network helpline at 877-908-3360. Again, that's 877-908-3360. If you'd like more information and resources on fraud and scams from AARP New Jersey, please visit the site aarp.org/NJ-Fights-Fraud. Again, that's aarp.org/NJ-Fights-Fraud. We hope you've learned something today that's new to you, because it was new to me as well, about how you can stay safe from fraud and scams. Thank you again and have a great day. Enjoy the day.
Bye, everybody.
Bye-bye.